Film review, Lee, 2023, starring Kate Winslet as Lee Miller. Lee is a war film. It opens with the sound of gunfire, as American war correspondent Lee Miller, Kate Winslet, runs between sandbags, the camera close to her body. Lee Miller in the film's opening moments has found her purpose exposing the horrors of war through confrontational images and behind-the-scenes reportage, with a style that was very much her own. Some of the images of war and genocide that made it to print appeared in Vogue, of all places, a fashion magazine in which Lee had once modeled as the golden-haired epitome of jazz-age chic before famously declaring that she would rather take a photograph than be one. Lee is not the kaleidoscopic portrait of a complicated, fascinating woman that you might expect from its source material, Anthony Penrose's 1985 biography of the artist, titled The Lives of Lee Miller, going through the chapters of her life. The successful model-turned-surrealist artist who worked with Man Ray, her lover and mentor, the libertine-turned-celebrated war photographer, and the reluctant mother who later embraced the domestic as a talented haute cuisine cook. Lee resolutely concentrates on her life during wartime, implying that she never quite recovered from that grueling ordeal. Everything else is simply thrown out of focus. A Vogue interview from last year with Kate Winslet, producer as well as star, observed that she was intent on focusing the story on Miller's work rather than her lovers and the sexy artistic celebrity milieu that she moved in. This is a commendable aim in portraying an artist who art history was at one time stuck on as a muse, model and lover. But to ignore the messiness of her romantic life completely is to offer up a flat and two-dimensional portrait. And anyway, whoever said that lovers aren't work? In the film, Lee meets Roland Penrose, Alexander Skarsgård, a surrealist artist, in the south of France, where she is holidaying with her circle of famous artistic friends. They strike up a steamy romance, which will wind up with Lee moving to London on the eve of World War II. Their romantic life truncated, when the reality was of course far more complicated. When Lee met Roland, she was already married to a wealthy Egyptian businessman named Aziz Eloui Bey, and Roland was also married to the French surrealist poet and collagist, Valentine. Lee remained legally married to Aziz for 13 years in a union that Anthony Penrose describes as one of the strangest he'd ever seen. The film can feel a little lifeless. A dramatic role. Lee does showcase an impressive cast, not least Winslet herself. Director Ellen Kuras had already worked with Winslet back in 2004 on Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where she was the cinematographer, and Lee has clearly been crafted as a woman's perspective on war. Winslet perfectly captures Lee's indomitable spirit, foolhardy bravery, and sense of righteous indignation, in a performance that appears to be constantly breaking through states of physical exhaustion. Lee climbs up hills, drinks whiskey in army tanks, and is very much performed like a person in middle age. Andrea Riseborough is excellent as Audrey Withers, editor of British Vogue, playing her with a wickedly funny intensity. Audrey became Lee's close friend and greatest defender, fighting to get her images of the Holocaust in Vogue's glossy pages. Beyond some great performances, Lee does not overstay its welcome and will likely introduce many to an extraordinary body of work. Lee captured important moments in history, from her surrealist photographs of the London Blitz to her heart-rending images of the Nazi concentration camps of Buchenwald and Dachau, to the liberation of Paris, to the end of the Nazi regime, which she symbolically freeze-framed in an iconic shot of herself naked in Hitler's bathtub. Overall, an interesting biopic on a person whose story of achievement and perseverance should be told and shared.